I'm Nabanita, CEO and co-founder of HDAX Therapeutics, and I was part of, well, about now 2 years ago, I was part of Lab2Market, and we were PhD students at the time, and now we really have a business. When we started at Lab2Market, we were grad students trying to figure out if our technology could really make a difference anywhere outside the lab and outside journals. But yeah, through Lab2Market, we really realized that we could take this forward and probably help real patients. So I'll share a little bit about my story and how Lab2Market has helped us till now and will probably continue to help us in our journey. So HDAX is a University of Toronto spin-out, and we develop next generation therapeutics for neurological and cardiovascular diseases that have a transport dysfunction. And before sharing what we do at HDAX, I wanted to quickly talk a little bit about my journey as a scientist and as a researcher and how I ventured into this world. And I think that will really shine a light on how a program like Lab2Market can help researchers like us. I'm an immigrant in Canada, born and raised in Bangladesh, and moved here actually exactly 10 years ago to do undergrad at the University of Toronto in life sciences. I was a very passionate life science enthusiast, really interested in chemistry, biology, health, and that led me to a direct entry PhD in medicinal chemistry at the University of Toronto. So while I was doing my undergrad, I really dipped my toes into a lot of research programs in medicinal chemistry, molecular biology, a lot of different diseases, many types of cancers, neurological diseases, and just kept on going ahead with it because I could see that this was just very, very interesting to me, and I just loved science, and I was wishing that all the science that I was doing would make an impact one day in real people's lives and go from bench to bedside and not just be from bench to bookshelf. But I had no idea how to get there, but I had a feeling that we'll probably figure out at one point. So fast forward, started direct entry PhD, and that was about 4.5 years long. But we started the science behind HDAX while I was still in my undergrad. And that was, I think, of quite a winding road. As you know, research is definitely not a linear path at all. We ended up publishing a few papers, filing 2 patents, trying to develop novel therapeutics targeting this protein called HDAX6, hence the name of the company, HDAX Therapeutics. It was really important in a lot of diseases. Neurological diseases, cardiovascular diseases, and some cancer-associated issues. However, we saw that there was really nothing to really target this protein properly so that you could have an impact in patients. And that's really how the inception of the science happened many years ago in the academic lab. And in 2021, after quite a few papers, 2 patents, we really wanted to spin it out. And while we were at Lab2Market, actually, we incorporated the company in Ontario. It was my academic founder, so my PI, Patrick Gunning. He was a serial entrepreneur, so he spun out a couple of companies before this. So that really helped us actually get exposure to that this is possible. However, as PhD trainees, we didn't really know what the first step or second step should be in order to take the science and the innovation and actually transform it into a business. And through Lab2Market, we really figured out where to go from here, what a pre-seed, seed, Series A even meant. You don't really learn that in graduate school. We learn a lot of things, but nothing really about business. What is a business model? Like 2 years ago, we really understood what the business model canvas actually meant. And how to, I think one of the biggest learnings from Lab2Market was that as we're trained as scientists, so we really like to complicated things. That's just our nature. But to simplify complicated things is so difficult. And really learned how to figure out our value proposition through Lab2Market and simplify the complexity of the science, the technology, and our value proposition into simpler terms for really all of the stakeholders that we spoke to throughout Lab2Market. So I think the most important thing Lab2Market did for us is let us to really understand that this could be a viable business. This technology actually has potential to be commercialized and impact real people's lives. And it led to the birth of HDAX Therapeutics. And since then, again, it's been a winding road. Just like research, this hasn't been linear at all, but it's been extremely exciting to have turned from a scientist to an entrepreneur. Being a first-time founder has been very, very thrilling, and HDAX has been advancing fairly nicely, and we hope to actually help real patients one day and start clinical trials in about 2025. So that was a bit of a glimpse of our journey where Lab2Market came in, and I think I'll take you into a bigger deep dive into what we actually do at HDAX Therapeutics. As I mentioned, we were targeting this protein called HDAX6, really important in a lot of diseases, and that's a quick animation on what we actually target in the body. HDAX6 is actually a key regulator in many cellular pathways. Transport in your nerves, in your heart stiffness, microtubule, mitochondrial dynamics, which makes it a very important and actually a validated therapeutic target in a wide range of diseases, starting from neuropathies to cardiovascular diseases and even inflammation. And really, we started the science in 2016 because we saw a lot of clinical candidates and actual clinical drugs that were really not good enough. And even at that early stage in the lab, when we would do just cellular testing with what's used in patients today, we could show that we're already making a difference in just cell samples from patients. Like, this really needs to go out into the real world where the treatment that patients are having is just very, very suboptimal. People were struggling with low efficacy because of low target engagement with the target at your molecular level. So the clinical drugs and the clinical candidates were really suffering from poor efficacy. So really not making a difference in real humans. Next, safety was a concern, which really meant that you couldn't tap into heart failure and inflammation and neuropathies. There were adverse side effects in patients from what was in the market at that time. And finally, pharmacokinetics, so how a drug survives in the body and actually can target the disease at its root. It really wasn't making it to the site of actions, which is why it wasn't really delivering what we were supposed to do. So we saw a lot of challenges. The industry saw a lot of challenges in targeting very important disease drivers, and that really led to the birth of the science and eventually the birth of HDAX Therapeutics, where we developed a novel two-site binding mechanism to target this protein. So what I have here is one of our older compounds crystallized in the pocket of the protein. The red arrow shows how everyone binds, makes a singular interaction in the protein. What we do at HDAX is, in addition to the singular binding, we have a second layer of interactions. So simply put, we can grasp onto this target with two hands, while everyone else can do so with just one hand. And that really changes things, allows us to really improve on how strongly we target, so efficacy, and how selectively we target, so safety. Next, we can actually develop molecules that target the root of the problem in the body. So can actually go to your nervous system for neurological diseases. And if it's a disease in the periphery, like the heart, it can actually just be restricted there. And finally, it had great expansion potential. We could utilize this two-site binding for the discovery of inhibitors, degraders, and so on, really expanding this know-how to a platform for other targets. And that was really our secret sauce. And with this, we are venturing into our first disease, which is chemotherapy-induced peripheral neuropathy. Now, that's quite a mouthful, but it's actually something I think everyone in this room knows because they've seen someone or the other in their lifetime suffering from it. See, chemo-induced peripheral neuropathy is a neurological problem that occurs in cancer patients. So when cancer patients undergo chemotherapy, they tend to suffer from pain, even sometimes paralysis, tingling, and inability to move. And that all is actually an aftermath of the cancer treatment, not the cancer. So it's the chemo that's causing all these neurological damages. And there's really no solution for it. About 30 to 80% of all cancer patients develop neuropathy, and it can start from the first onset of the very first cancer treatment that they're getting. And it's not just chemo that causes it, it's also the newer cancer drugs that are very neurotoxic to patients, which is why chemo-induced neuropathy is such a major problem. And it affects more than 1 million patients. We understand how this neurological damage is happening and how HDAX6, our target, is actually involved in that process. However, all patients have right now is actually just symptomatic management. So you're looking at ice buckets to help with the pain, or opioids. But pain is just one of the symptoms of this neurological damage. Your nerves are getting damaged, which means that the underlying problem is still there, that opioids and painkillers are not being able to address. So at HDAX, we are trying to develop the first effective treatment for these peripheral neuropathy patients, starting with chemotherapy-induced peripheral neuropathy in cancer patients. Yep, and here's a little bit of our competitive advantages that show how the two-side binding and our proprietary technology has led to a real difference in the properties that we are seeing. For both our neurological disease asset and the cardiovascular asset, we've been able to show that our HDAX6 targeting, so ideally you want an IC50 low, ours is actually lower than what's out there in clinical trials right now, meaning that we can actually target the root of the problem much better. We're also more selective for the target, meaning that we're actually safe in patients, and we've reached over 800-fold selectivity now, while the most advanced candidates are barely selective for the target, meaning that they tend to have a lot of adverse side effects. And finally, I think very importantly, we cross the blood-brain barrier, so we actually get into your neurological system for neuropathies, and we can restrict it in the periphery for peripheral diseases. We have been able to show that these differentiating parameters indeed lead to enhanced efficacy in animal models and other models of chemotherapy-induced mice models, and that really shows that indeed the unique differentiation in the technology leads to improved outcomes in models and should lead to improved outcomes in real patients as well. And this is where we are headed. When we started Lab2Market, we actually didn't know which diseases to go after. As you saw, there's quite a few diseases where this could have impact. But after a lot of market research, really understanding our differentiation, where we could make the difference, and what would the low-hanging fruit be, we decided to go forward for neuropathies while also looking at cardiovascular diseases. And we're also expanding the platform of two-side binding technology for other targets and even more diseases, with always looking out for opportunities for out-licensing and strategic partnerships throughout the development. And we're in discussion with several big pharma who are actively interested in this space. And here's the team leading the venture. Both Pim and I are first-time founders, PhD-trained scientists at the University of Toronto. Professor Patrick Gunning was the technical lead at Lab2Market. As Wes mentioned, full-time tenured professors don't really want to leave their beautiful jobs and enjoy the crazy lives that we have. So he's definitely more of an advisor, and we are the entrepreneurs sprinting through. We have an executive chairman now based in Boston who's had some pharma experience and venture capital experience. And we've really surrounded the team with folks who has done this repeatedly and know how to do this. So it's a good blend of first-time folks like me, and as our chairman likes to say, folks with gray hair. So, you know, they've been through all of this and they know what they're talking about. Yeah, our advisory board now contains the director of the neuromuscular divisions of Johns Hopkins. He really leads our chemo-induced peripheral neuropathy, both preclinical and clinical development plans. Neil Mooney was in the FDA and CEO of Azurity Pharmaceuticals. And as a small company, you don't really need a lot of full-time folks, and you also can afford a lot of very expert full-time folks. So we've got the director of medicinal chemistry of Boehringer Ingelheim supporting us from a part-time capacity, and consultants with more than 10 NDA approvals also guiding our preclinical development. And yeah, since Lab2Market was in 2021, exactly 2 years ago, and that's around the time where HDAX was formed. Since then, we negotiated the exclusive license of the intellectual property from the University of Toronto, raised over $1 million in pre-seed funding, and actually reached some milestones, preclinical stage efficacy data we've been able to generate, and now we are moving towards development candidate nomination and a seed round. And here are, outside Lab2Market, here are some of the folks who have supported us. And I do want to highlight that because Lab2Market was so diverse, it allowed us to really look outside the University of Toronto ecosystem, and that also allowed us to expand our horizon beyond Canada. We were supported by Facet OICR, which I'm sure a lot of you know, but we also became part of Berkeley Skydeck in California, VitaDAO out of California, Mass Bio Drive in Boston, and just last week we won a golden ticket in Lab Central in Boston. So we are really trying to become a global company because at the end of the day, we are looking to make a global impact in patients all over the world. But we started from humble grounds here in the University of Toronto, actually in the Mississauga campus, where we still have our wet lab. And yeah, and there's a few exciting things that have happened more recently. Just a few weeks ago, Pim and I were named Forbes 30 Under 30 in Toronto. And we are a Facet-funded company. We've got a great board now with folks who've really done this many times, so they can really gear us in the right track. And yeah, Berkeley Skydeck-funded company, and hopefully it's, we know it's a winding road ahead, but I think we're ready for it. And yeah, I think Lab2Market has really been instrumental in, I think, instilling the belief that we can actually do this. Like, we've done a PhD, we've learned a lot of things in the PhD, but now we've also built a lot of skills that could be transferable to business. So we don't really, probably may need an MBA somewhere in the long run, but for now, we can figure out business on the go, and yeah, it's been great. Thank you for the time.